YouTube, Joyboy here. Today I want to talk about chapter 851 of One Piece and what I think might have been the most important detail of that chapter that would be extremely easy for someone to overlook. And so just as a quick recap of chapter 851, we did learn a lot of really cool stuff. And so a lot of people might point to Pudding's reveal of her devil fruit, the memory devil fruit, being the most important thing. And then we have the reveal that Sanji is pretty much given up on Pudding and straight up left after he saw what Pudding had done. And I think this could very easily be setting up something incredibly important. And then at the very end of the chapter, Jinbei saved Luffy from pretty much ripping his arms off and couldn't have arrived at any more of a crucial time. All of these things are incredibly important, but I think that they are all important in the short term. But in the long term, how exactly are the Straw Hats going to get out of Whole Cake Island? Well, that leads to this detail. And just as a side note, guys, my review or my first reaction to the chapter was incredibly poor because I did not have a lot of time. So I figured I'd throw my 2 cents on some topics for my first reaction, but I left out this detail specifically so that I could cover it in its own video, which hopefully will be shorter because of that. And so what I want to talk about is the conversation between Big Mom and Brook. And essentially, Brook talks about Sanji and how he's a kind man, and how Brook honestly expected that Sanji would not want to return because of how Brook views Sanji as being so kind-hearted that he will refuse to budge once he's decided to sacrifice himself for another's sake, which is something that we've honestly seen from Sanji's character at multiple times throughout the course of the story. And so Brook goes on to talk about how this is something that needs to be settled between Luffy and Sanji. But in the worst case scenario that Sanji does not return to the crew, Brook's role, he feels like, is to ensure that Sanji does not feel any guilt for staying behind, so that the trip towards to Whole Cake Island would not be a waste regardless, because they actually obtained something from visiting the island. And so this is why Brook is comfortable with not focusing on rescuing Sanji, but rather obtaining the road poneglyph. But then Big Mom drops this bomb, and it may not appear to be a bomb to many people, but I do believe that its overall importance is counter to many of people's expectations for Whole Cake Island at this point in time, which Big Mom says this: your so-called worst case scenario ain't even that bad. If Sanji decides to never return, that's your worst case scenario? Are you sure nobody is going to end up getting killed on this trip? Heck, everyone you ever cherish might end up dying because of this journey. Now, of course, there's always the looming threat that somebody might die. One of the Straw Hats might die because Whole Cake Island is Yonko territory. Big Mom right now is their enemy, so the stakes are pretty high. But the second thing that Big Mom says is incredibly important in my opinion. Everyone you cherish may end up dying because of this journey. And I think this ties specifically back to some of the threats that surround Big Mom. Essentially, Big Mom will kill anyone you ever know if she invites you to the tea party and you do not show up. So for Big Mom, if she doesn't like you, she may kill anyone from your past. Anyone at all. Everyone is fair game. Assuming that threat was not a lie. Now, some people may argue that essentially what Big Mom is saying is that, well, one of the Straw Hats might die. Heck, all of the Straw Hats might die. When she says, heck, everyone you cherish might end up dying because of this journey, she's not specifically talking about potentially killing anyone from their past. And to this point, I do want to say that she doesn't know Brook that well, I would assume. Like, Brook has been MIA for the majority of his history. And so if she said this to anyone else, everyone you cherish would not only refer to the Straw Hats, because for someone like Sanji, or for someone like Luffy, or for someone like Nami, or Zoro, or anyone else in the Straw Hat crew, when you say everyone you cherish might die, that would include both the Straw Hats and people that you cherish from the past. Heck, for Brook, this might even include Crocus and Laboon. And so what's the point of this? What's the significance of it? Well, I think it emphasizes something that I've said a long time ago that wasn't really explicitly pointed out, but I think this is the closest that we've gotten so far, which is that the Straw Hats cannot like run away from Whole Cake Island. They cannot take Sanji and then take the road poneglyph and just deuce while leaving Big Mom on the loose with this threat potentially looming in the air, because if they do so, then anyone from their past may end up getting killed. Luffy would never put a Nakama in danger like that. But guys, it's not like this particular threat has not already played a role in the story. A lot of people are really disappointed with how Sanji has been portrayed so far in this arc. But part of the reason why Sanji is so despisable is because of this threat. When he first got to Whole Cake Island and when he first left Zou, he had hope for the future, as though he would really go to Whole Cake Island, take care of his business, and then go and reunite with the Straw Hats. But part of the reason why he gave up that hope was because the looming threat of the death of his mentor and owner Zeph. And so I believe this absolutely has to be addressed. Sanji needs to, in a way, save Zeph. And this only doesn't just apply to Zeph. This applies to everyone the Straw Hats have ever known in the past. Any friends that they might have. That in some way this threat must be dealt with. Or else I would have to consider this to be a plot hole. You don't spend time to justify Sanji's complete lack of hope and then completely ignore it by having Sanji and the rest of the Straw Hats just run away. If Sanji thought running away was a viable option, then there would still be hope, and Pudding wouldn't have been his last ray of hope as of the last couple chapters. He would be looking towards ideas to how the Straw Hats could run away, but he hasn't even been doing that because, as I stated, it's not an option. And so let me break this down for you, and I'm going to set it up in black and white terms, but keep in mind that the actual story context is not black and white, but the available options are, which is you can either run away or you can't. And if you can't run away, then you're left in Whole Cake Island. And so obviously they have to get to Wano at some point in time, which means that they can't stay in Whole Cake Island forever. So if you're not running away, then, and Big Mom is like right now a threat, then you must defeat her. Or on the flip side, then at some point in time, you must put yourself in a situation where it's not necessary to defeat her. These are your only options. I hope that made sense to you guys. And so it is in my opinion that this particular detail highly supports the idea that either Big Mom will get defeated or the Straw Hats will not need to defeat Big Mom. And so guys, some of you might think that I'm a broken record because I have said this before. However, with this new evidence, I think it highlights it as an important point. And so with this being said, a lot of people really see only one available option, which is the Straw Hats are going to in some way run away. But as I stated in this video, I do not think that they can run away without in some way Oda actually addressing this. And so guys, I honestly believe a lot of people have forgotten about this, or in some way are ignoring it, or don't realize its overall importance, but I do believe that you must keep this in mind. Regardless of how you see the future of the Whole Cake Island arc playing out, this is one of the most important things. And so a lot of people really don't see why I still believe in the idea that these Straw Hats will in some way befriend Big Mom, or leave with her permission. They see it as not even close to being a possibility. However, with this being kept in mind, and you're left with two options, either they'll defeat Big Mom or they won't need to defeat Big Mom, then this actually becomes one of the best ideas out there to potentially explain how they may get out of this situation, just because defeating Big Mom is still a very hard idea to believe, despite my recent attempts to try and validate it. But I do want to hear your guys' opinion about this. Do you think that the Straw Hats would be willing to run away from Whole Cake Island with the potential sacrifice of everyone that they have ever known, anyone that they have ever cherished? Or do you think that this is potentially setting up a plot hole in which the only option that you see available is the Straw Hats running away, and that Oda will in some way overlook the fact that this threat is looming that Big Mom will kill anyone from your past? But still, it seems in this last chapter that he's brought it up again. But just let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future videos. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.